Hey everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good, thanks. Yourself?
Good.
Yeah, you have a good winter break?
A lot of stuff happened, but made it through. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's been a little busy. I've been looking for places in Fullerton, 'cause, we were supposed to be going to back in person. I want to be closer to school instead of, having to commute.
Right, right.
Kind of stressful looking for apartments, but we figured it out.
Nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah, rents everywhere are just getting out of control too. I mean, price of everything is getting out of control, but yeah,
Yeah,
rent especially.
yeah.
Our landlord here raised our rent $150 yeah, for the new year. So it's getting a little bit tighter on the on the finances, that's for sure.
All right. But refreshed and ready to go for the last semester. That feels good to say.
Nice, nice. That's good. Graduation's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Hey, Samson, good to see you. How are you doing? Yep, it's come back to work for everybody. Oh shoot. How are you feeling? Feeling better? That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's so contagious now. It's scary. That's always a good thing. Dang. That sounds rough. Yeah, it was okay. I had a lot. Oh, yeah, it was a lot of upholstery, but it was okay. Yeah, some stuff happened over break that was a little bit hard to deal with for my family, but we got through it. So yeah, just looking forward to the new semester.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
How's it going, Dr. Tran?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How was your spring? I mean, your winter.
Uh, some stuff happened. Not the easiest stuff, but we got through it.
That's good.
Just looking forward to a good semester. How about
Yeah,
you?
same. Yeah, I took a anthro class, so I wouldn't go insane for this semester. Rather take 6 instead of 7 classes.
Oh, dang!
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
wow.
you were going to Arizona, weren't you?
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay. I guess that was someone else. My mistake.
No worries. Hey, Jesus.
Will we be using ANSYS for heat transfer?
No, so we'll actually be writing our own code, and so
Oh,
we're going to be
okay.
using AutoMATLAB in this class.
All
Yeah.
right. All right, cool.
All right, it's 5:30, so let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. So welcome to the spring 2022 semester, if no one said that to you already, and welcome to EGME 417. So my name is Professor Justin Tran, and I will be your instructor for this class. And this class is about computational heat transfer. Okay. So our first day, for our first day today, what I thought I'd do is I would just spend the day introducing the class. Just to kind of give you an idea of what you can expect from the class in terms of the topics we're going to learn and what skills you're going to learn. Okay, this is an interesting one. So I always really love teaching technical electives like this because I think it gives me and it gives you guys a chance to explore some really specialized topics that don't really fit in together with the main curriculum. But I think are really, either on the cutting edge or are just really kind of cool in general. Okay. And so after we do an overview of the class, my plan is to go over the syllabus. And so everything that I want you to know from the syllabus, we'll cover that. And then at the very end, we'll do a brief tour of the course website, just so you know kind of where everything is. Okay. Okay. And so are there any questions I can answer before we get started? Okay. So at any time today, today is fairly informal. We're not going to cover any content for the course, and so at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And so you can either turn on your mic if you feel comfortable, or you can put the questions in the chat, and I can read them from there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get rolling. Okay. So first, a little bit about myself. So my name is Professor Justin Tran. I'm not particular with how you address me. And so if you've had me before, you know that, you can call me kind of whatever you want. And so, a lot of people call me Dr. Tran, some call me Professor Tran, Dr. Justin, Professor Justin, whatever's comfortable for you is comfortable for me. I put this offer out there for every semester. So far, no one's taken me up on it, but, you can feel free to call me something like Dick Face, okay? So I've grown up in the era of online gaming, so I've been called a lot of really terrible things by 12-year-olds playing online video games. So I'm used to it. But I will say if you try to do that during the class to try to be disruptive, I might ignore you. But you can email me that, and I'll be okay. All right, speaking of email, my email address is there for you on the screen, okay? And my email address, I always tell people, is really easy to remember. So it's justran@fullerton.edu. Okay, so it's kind of an amalgamation of my my first and last name. I say it's easy to remember because you can just think of I just ran a mile or I just ran a 5K, and so that's my email. Okay. I grew up around here, so I grew up in Cyprus. So if you're not sure where that is, that's about 10 miles west of Fullerton. So I'm very familiar with this area, and a lot of my friends actually went to Cal State Fullerton as well. And so, for me, it's great being home and being able to teach in this area. A little bit about my educational background. I got my bachelor's from UCLA, my master's from UCSD, my PhD from Stanford, all of them in mechanical engineering. So mechanical engineering is a department I'm very well familiar with. And in terms of research interests, a lot of my research focuses on how to apply engineering tools in biomedical applications. So in particular, I like to study heart and blood disease using computational tools. A lot of the tools actually that we're going to be developing in this class, I've used for research. Okay, and of course, as an educator myself in the STEM fields, I'm interested in better ways to teach STEM. Okay. Have I tried the new game Super People CBT yet? I have not, and I don't even know what that. I never even heard of that game yet. All right. Okay. Learning objectives. And so if you've taken me before, you know what these learning objectives are all about. But if not, what you'll see before every class is I'll have a list of learning objectives. And so I really like these because for me, this is a way to organize the course into skills, what I like to think of them. Okay. Because what I believe is that you guys are taking these engineering courses, you're getting an engineering degree to learn skills that are going to be useful to you in your careers and beyond. And so what I like to do is I like to take the courses that I teach, and I like to take out, say, if after I teach this lecture, what new skills or what new abilities do I want you guys to learn from this lesson? And I give those to you in terms of learning objectives, right? And so what you'll see from the learning objectives is that they all start with some kind of verb, okay? This last one's a little bit unique just because it's about the syllabus, but I start all my learning objectives with a verb. And the reason I do this is that they all describe a certain kind of task or a certain kind of skill that you should be able to do at the conclusion of the lecture today, okay? And so today, after the class today, you should be able to describe the use and utility of simulation tools for performing engineering work with heat transfer and fluid mechanics, right? And so I like this because, after the class each day, you can go back to your learning objectives and ask yourself, am I able to do this after the class today? And if you are, that's great. That's one of the main points of the lecture that I want you to get. But if not, then maybe it's a good idea to go back and review the lecture, maybe watch the recording again or read the textbook or read the notes just to make sure that you can perform this task, okay? And this is a great, and I use these learning objectives to help organize my content for the exams as well. So, organizing your thoughts, organizing the content, organizing the concepts of this class around these learning objectives is a great way to do well in this class and to get the most out of it. Okay, and so what I always tell people is that before every class I'll have a list of these learning objectives. Go ahead and write them down in your notes, and then by the time your notes are done, try to see if you can do the learning objectives, and if so, then you're in good shape. Okay, and so let's get into what this course is all about. Okay, so this course is called Computational Heat Transfer. And so I think most people can guess from the title that it's about heat transfer in some way. But how is this different from regular heat transfer, and what does the computational mean? Okay, and so my definition for computational heat transfer is that it refers to a collection of numerical and computational techniques for simulating heat transfer and fluid mechanics phenomena. Right, and so what that basically means is that we're going to be leveraging computers to perform arithmetic and algebraic calculations at speeds that far exceed human capabilities, right? And so most of you have taken heat transfer, or you should anyway, because it's a prerequisite for this course. And you're probably familiar with solving a lot of those problems by hand, right? And in fact, I think that's true for most of the courses that you take here as as a mechanical engineer, be it structural mechanics, be it strength of materials, fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, heat transfer, right? So the way that we teach a lot of our core classes is to perform them with hand calculations, right? And that's great, right? Because in doing those hand calculations, I think you really get a firm grasp of the fundamentals of every subject, which is what you need on the core classes. But in reality, those same methods, a lot of times they're not as useful for solving actual practical problems. Because the problem with practical situations is that they have a lot of complexity to them. And so what that means is that their geometry is going to be complex, the loading or the boundary condition is going to be complex, where it's really hard to do hand calculations, right? So if you think back to your heat transfer class, I'm sure you probably all tackled the problem where you computed heat transfer through a one-dimensional wall, right? And that's fine. You can do that. But if I were to ask you to take those methods and solve for the total amount of heat loss in your entire room, right, with all the walls and all the features on the room, that would be really difficult to do because it's a lot more of a complex problem. Okay? And so that's where computations come in. And so the advantage of computers is that it can take a complex situation like this and solve it in a much shorter and much more a much easier amount of time than you would have by hand, right? And so in this class we're going to learn techniques how to actually do that, because it's not just a simple matter of kind of just telling the computer to do something. And so the way that we as engineers communicate to the computer and tell them tasks to do is through computer programming. Okay? And so we're going to be doing a lot of programming in this class. We're going to be doing a lot of MATLAB. Okay. And so hopefully you feel comfortable doing that, because it's it's going to be a big part of this course. Okay. And the reason I picked heat transfer for this is that heat transfer, as opposed to some other fluids or some other subjects, is that heat transfer is notorious for being normally very difficult to work with and very difficult to analyze. So computational tools for heat transfer is really, really useful. Okay, any questions on this so far? Okay, so let me give you some examples of comparisons of situations that maybe you solve by hand in 407 versus situations that you can do using the methods in this class, right? And so this is the situation that I described to you on the previous slide, right? So you have a simple wall here where one side of the wall is held at a temperature T1 and the other side of the wall is held at a temperature T2, right? And so you have a temperature gradient, and so you have heat transfer from the hot surface to the cold surface. So this is very easy to do by hand. But if you look at a situation like this, where you have maybe a turbine in a some kind of heat generation type of situation, or energy generation, or maybe it's for an aircraft engine, and you want to find out what the temperature distribution is here, this would be really difficult to do by hand because this geometry is really complex. But using computational tools, you're able to solve for this, a lot more easily. Okay. All right, so next we have convection heat transfer. So convection heat transfer, if you remember from 407, was very difficult to do, in terms of determining what the convection coefficient was and solving for the exact amount of heat transfer. But with computational tools, you're able to take complicated situations like this and solve for them and produce results that look like this, that show you, in this case, is the heat transfer coefficient, through an array of fins. So, probably you would see a device like this on a motorcycle engine or a computer part to help enhance the amount of heat transfer that leaves the part. Okay. All right, and lastly, I have an example from fluids. And so here we have a simple pipe flow. And so in pipe flow, this is a situation you can solve for by hand using the Navier-Stokes equation because the geometry is relatively simple. But if you were to do a more complicated situation, and so in this case, this is actually an image from a good colleague of mine solving for the blood flow velocity after a surgical procedure. Okay, and so what he proposed was that you can connect these two blood vessels right here, and it could help for some patients that have a weakened heart. And he did the simulations that kind of prove that the surgery works. Right? And actually, this surgery that he developed using these computational tools, it did pique the interest of some surgeons. And so there are some surgeons out there that are actually trying to put this in practice right now, and doing kind of the first kind of medical tests on this. Okay. So before I go move on, are there any questions on this? Okay. Okay, so let's look at an overview of the course, right? And so this course, I would say splits off into 4 different big sections, right? And so in this first section here, we're going to be doing a lot of review, okay? Because I know a lot of people are coming in with a lot of different backgrounds in terms of what they feel comfortable with in MATLAB. Maybe you took heat transfer a long time ago, or if you're a graduate student, it might have been even longer. And so, for such a specialized course like this, I think it's really important for us to do quite a bit of review just to make sure we're all on the same page. And so the first couple of weeks are going to be dedicated to that, right? From there, we're going to be moving on to a set of methods called finite differences, okay? So finite differences, I love finite differences because I think it's usually the first computational tool or first computational method that most people learn. And what we'll see is that with finite differences, we're going to be able to solve these complicated differential equations using code, right? And so we're going to go through the theory of what finite differences is, and how to write how to write MATLAB code to actually perform those simulations. From there, we're going to move on to a different set of methods called finite volumes, right? So finite volumes is kind of a, it's still a technique for solving heat transfer problems, but it approaches it in a slightly different way, okay? And so, we'll learn how to use those techniques, and we'll learn how it's different than finite differences, right? And then in the last part of the course, I have here I have it labeled as flow modeling. But that's kind of my chance to show you a more developed tool, okay? Because all throughout these 2 sections of the course right here, finite differences and finite volumes, I'm going to be asking you guys to develop your own code to solve for these. But there actually are a lot of tools out there that kind of solve these kinds of problems. And so the last part of the class will be dedicated to learning one of those tools. And so the last year when I taught this class, what I did was I gave a brief introduction to OpenFOAM. And so if you're familiar with that package, then that's one of the premier open source packages for solving for fluids and thermal problems. Okay. And so we'll learn how to do that in the last course. But I will say that we're not going to have too much time at the end of the class, especially depending on how long it takes to go through these ones. But I'll try to cover as much as I can during that part. And if you want to see, all the topics expanded, then, here are all the methods. Okay. Okay. All right. And so, that begs the question of, why do we want to learn these computational techniques to begin with? Okay. And so what you'll find out after this class is that, there are a lot of softwares out there. There are a lot of tools that you can use to perform simulations. So I mentioned OpenFOAM on the previous slide, but I know probably a lot of people are familiar with ANSYS. So there are a lot of tools out there. But what I want to emphasize is these are simply just tools, okay? And just like any tool, it has its limitations and best practices that need to be used and properly understood so that it can be used effectively, right? And so think of any other tool that you used before, right? So think of like a hammer, right? A hammer is a great tool, but you can also misuse a hammer to do a lot of really reckless things as well. Right? And most importantly, what I want you to know is that it's not going to work all the time. Okay, I think this is a big fallacy that people fall into when they use a tool like ANSYS. Okay, and so they think that ANSYS, everything that ANSYS gives you is the truth. But that's totally not true. So there's a lot of different ways that you can set up a computational simulation such that it's not going to work. Okay. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time on the fundamentals. We're going to be spending a lot of time on the theory behind this technology so that you can understand, what are the situations and what are the ways that you can set up these computational problems such that they are reliable and that they can produce results that are actually useful to you. Okay. And it's even more important because, after you take this course, and I know a lot of you are close to graduating, you're going to be considered an expert in the field. Okay. And so you're going to, after you graduate from here, you're going to get a job. And people are going to look to you and trust you as an expert, for these things. And so it's really important to have a firm grasp of the fundamentals and really understand all our tools so that we can make responsible and trustworthy decisions, out there in the professional workplace. Right? And another reason too is that every day, literally every day, there are new softwares and new techniques being pushed out there. And so it's important to have a firm grasp of the fundamentals and a firm grasp of what are all the tools and techniques out there so that you can best understand everything that can be used. Okay. All right. And so, because it's inevitable, I know a question that's going to be out there is, why do we want to learn the background knowledge to begin with? So why are we going to waste our time with all this theory, all this math? Okay. And the reason is because, you're going to be expected to be an expert in this stuff, right? And so the example I like to give is a veterinarian, right? And so for your vet, let's say that you take your pet to the vet, right? And so the expectation that you have is that, the vet will need to know what I like to call these procedural skills, right? And so they're going to need to know how to give a shot to an animal, how to take a blood sample, how to perform an eye and an ear check, right? And so these are kind of the procedural skills that you're expected to know, right? And so kind of an analogous situation for engineers is that people are going to expect you to know how to use the software, right? So they're going to expect you to know how to open up MATLAB and write code for it, okay? And for another situation too, they're going to expect you to know how to open up ANSYS and push the buttons on that. But it's beyond that, right? And so as an expert in the field, we're also expected to know conceptual knowledge, right? And so things like why or when we give our animal shots, we expect our vets to know why our pet is sick and what we should do in those situations. We expect the vet to interpret animal behavior and to come up with effective treatment plans, right? And so for all of these things down here, we need to have strong theoretical knowledge, okay? Much more than just pushing the buttons, right? And so, for this class, we're going to be spending a lot of time on that theory so that we can have that same conceptual understanding for the work that we're expected to be experts on, which is engineering, okay? Right, and and what I mentioned from before too is that a big part of this class is going to be the MATLAB programming, right? And so I know that MATLAB kind of makes a lot of people kind of uncomfortable, and there is going to be a lot of it. And I will say every homework assignment in this class is going to have some MATLAB programming, and the final project, I'm going to be expecting you to write fairly extensive code, like several hundred lines of code that you're going to have to write for the final project, right? And I'm saying that right now, not to scare you, not to intimidate you, but just to be kind of realistic about where this class is going to go and what I'm going to expect of you, right? But like I said, we're going to be spending a lot of time in this class doing review, okay? And a big part of that is going to be MATLAB review, right? And so we're going to be spending a lot of time reviewing what skills in MATLAB that you're going to need, how to code certain things, and what they're going to be used for in this class. And even throughout the class too, I'm going to be doing a lot of tutorials of how I would program this, and a lot of kind of step-by-step stuff. And so it's going to be a lot of MATLAB, but I promise you I'm going to be there for you kind of every step of the way. I'm not just going to throw you to the wolves and expect you to program a 500 line code out there. Okay. But I did want to be upfront with you guys about that. All right, any questions on any of this before we jump into the syllabus? Okay. All right, so let's start talking about the syllabus. And so if you want to follow along, you can download the syllabus from the course website. But I'm going to cover everything here that you need to know. And so you can kind of just follow along, and then maybe you look at the syllabus after the course. Right? All right, so first let's talk office hours. And so office hours are going to be in my office, which is CS 526. Okay? Obviously, I'm not there right now. I'm in my home, because we're required to be virtual these first 2 weeks. And so you can attend office hours virtually as well, right? And so I have a Zoom link for all the office hours on the course website. And so you can join the office hours from kind of anywhere that you want. And so office hours, these are the times that I have. And so I have Mondays from 11 to 12. Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Right. And so I always try to vary my office hours to give everyone a chance to attend them, because I know everyone's schedules are all over the place. And so I try to have, I try to vary the days, and I try to vary the times that I'm available. But at the same time, I know there are probably a lot of you out there where, these times don't work for you at all. Okay. And so if these times don't work for you, or if you have kind of an emergency, then, please, email me. I'm always happy to set up set up individual sessions to chat. Okay. So I've left a lot of other time in my schedule available to meet with students. Okay. So if you can't make it to office hours, just let me know, and I'm always happy to make an appointment with you. Okay. And so office hours, most of the time people come to office hours when they have confusion about the course content, and so they have questions they want to get answered. They have questions, maybe something didn't make sense in the lecture, or they have questions on the homework. You don't really know where to start, or questions on the exams. What's going to be on the exams and what you should study, things like that. Okay, so all of these I'm happy to answer in office hours. But office hours are what I like to say is they're for you guys, and so they're there for you guys whenever you want to talk to me about almost anything. Right? And so in office hours, I've given people career advice. I've looked at people's resumes. I've given them some people life advice, and so that's available too. So anytime that you need to talk to me about anything, feel free to come to office hours, and I'm always happy to talk about that stuff. Okay, and especially early on, you can come to office hours and just say hi. I'm always happy to see people. A lot of times my office hours, I just kind of stare at a wall for an hour. So that's, being able to talk to someone is always much nicer than that. All right, learning objectives. And so, in addition to the learning objectives that we have at the beginning of each class, I also have these course level learning objectives, that are going to kind of guide our instruction for the entire semester. Okay. And so just like I mentioned before, these learning objectives are tasks that you should be able to do. In terms of these ones, these are things that you should be able to do by the end of the class. And so all these objectives here, they're fairly large, in that they encompass a lot. But hopefully we'll be able to get to all of these, by the end of the course. All right, so let's talk deliverables. And so for this class, I have 7 homework assignments planned. I have 2 midterm exams and 1 final project. Okay. I will drop your lowest homework grade. And so the reason I do this is, I know that once the semester begins, things just get really crazy, especially because I know a lot of you are seniors and you have senior design, and I know that that class can be really crazy. It's going to demand a lot of your time. So I like to give a little bit of flexibility in terms of how people turn in their assignments. And so dropping the lowest homework assignment, that basically tells you that you can, if you have a really busy week or something, you can not turn something in, and it's not going to negatively affect your grade. Okay. But with that said, I would like you to do all of them, and so I don't assign homework just to be busy work. Although some people who have taken me before might disagree with that statement, because my homeworks, I know they can take a while, but but they're there to help you enhance your learning. Okay, especially with this class where the programming is such a big aspect of this class. Really, the only way you get better at programming is by practicing it yourself. Okay. Having someone lecture you about how to program well for 3 hours a week is not going to teach you how to program, right? It's one of those really practice skills that you need to, you really need to grapple with it. You really kind of need to struggle with it to really learn it, right? And the homeworks are kind of my way of giving you a chance to practice those things, right? And so, definitely do the homeworks, because it's only going to help you out in the long run, right? And even for short-term gains too. The homework assignments, the reason I make them really hard is so that the midterm exams are a lot easier by comparison. Okay, and so I always tell people that if you can do the homework problems and you really understand them, fully, then you're going to be in great shape for the exams, because the exams, are going to be easier than the homeworks. And the reason I do that is, for an exam, it's a very time constrained situation. You really don't have that much time to really think about stuff. Whereas for a homework assignment, you have a lot more time to do them, and it's a lot less stressful of an environment. And so, I push really hard on the homework so that, by the time you get to the exams, they're a lot easier. Okay. And the same goes for the final project too. And so we're not going to have a final exam in this class, but the final project is going to involve quite a bit of programming. And so, if you keep up with the homeworks and you're developing these programming skills all throughout the semester, the final project is going to be a lot easier for you to do, rather than, trying to learn how to program and do a final project in this class at the same time, which is a very, very difficult task. Okay. All right. Homework grading. And so, this is a technical elective. And so, to some degree, everyone here chose to be here. And so it's not like a required class where you're forced to be here. So, I'm operating under the assumption that, everyone here is really interested in computational heat transfer. And so for these kind of courses, I don't feel as much a need to be as strict on grading the homeworks. Okay. Because I know, everyone should want to be here. And so, for that reason, the homework's going to be graded purely on completion. Okay. And so with that said, I'm not going to be giving you as much feedback on the homework as I would normally for a required class. Okay. And so it's going to be your responsibility to check the homework solutions or to get feedback from me if you don't understand something, so that you're adequately prepared for the exams. Okay. I'll try to give some feedback as I'm going through the homeworks. But this class takes a little bit more time to prep than other ones, and I have quite a few other grad courses and technical electives this semester that I'm teaching, so it's a lot of prep, and so I don't have as much time as I would normally to give good feedback on the homeworks. But of course, if you want feedback on anything, just let me know, and I'm happy to give it. Yeah. All right, so the midterms, they're not cumulative, and so the midterms are only going to cover just a small portion of the class. But the final project will require knowledge gained from the entire course, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. And so for the exams, here are the dates and the times that I've planned for the exams, right? And so, just like I said in the introduction email, I do plan on keeping the virtual teaching for this entire semester. And so if you want to keep attending the lectures virtually, you're definitely open to do that. The only days that I require everyone to meet in person are going to be on the exam days. And so Wednesday, March 9th and Wednesday, April 20th, I want everyone to come to campus to take the exams. And so there are no plans right now for me to administer the exams virtually. Yeah. Oh, is that your graduation is on Monday, May 23rd. I see. Well, I mean, you're definitely welcome to turn in the projects before that. So so let me comment on the final project date. And so because this class doesn't have a final exam, it has a final project. I like to give you as much time for that as you need, especially for all the seniors here, where I know the last few weeks are going to be just crazy with your senior design. And so I like to push back the due date for the final project after finals week. And so if you look at the calendar, this Monday right here is actually the Monday after finals week. And so you're going to have the entirety of finals week to finish up the project, and also that weekend right after finals week to do it. With that said, I don't recommend waiting to start until then, because it is a lot of work. And so please start it earlier if you can, and you can turn it in earlier as you can too. But I try to push that due date as far back as I can to give everyone as much flexibility, with submitting it as possible. Yeah. Because this due date is so late, though, I unfortunately can't push it back any further. And so last semester, I actually had a couple issues where people turned in the wrong version of the report at the end. But unfortunately, I can't do much about that, because it was already so late, and and I need to submit grades by the end of that week, basically. So when you submit your project on that Monday, make sure it looks good, because I just don't have the time to go hunting people down and asking for revised versions. Question. So do you guys need to code for the midterms? That's a great question. So for the midterm exams, they're going to be all based on the theory. And so you're not going to need to code for the midterm exams at all. And so they're all going to be like, hand calculations. Right? And so, this is kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself, but but what we'll learn in this class is that, a lot of these computational techniques, it really helps a lot to kind of set them up on paper first. And so to do a little bit of work on pencil and paper to set it up, then implement that in the code. And so for the midterm exams, what I'm going to test you on the midterms is how well you can actually set up a problem using those paper methods. And then that'll be the question. But I'm not going to ask you to code anything on the exams. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. All right, and so here are the grade breakdowns. Okay, so the homework will be worth 10%. Each of the midterm exams will be 25%, and the final project will be worth 40% of your grade. And then after you turn everything in, and then I get your final percentage for the class, then I'm going to assign letter grades according to this to the scale. So I think this scale is fairly standard. Right? Got a question? Would you be able to submit the project the week before final? Absolutely, yes. And so you can submit the final project as soon as you finish it. Yeah. And so you definitely don't have to wait until the deadline. So I think I usually open up submissions 2 weeks before the due date. And so as soon as the submissions open, you can turn it in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actually helps me out a lot too, because then that helps me because then I can grade your projects early, and then it's not so much of a rush for me at the end, at the final week. Yeah, and if there are issues with your submission, then if you turn it in early, then it's a lot easier for me to catch those and to ask for a revised version. But if you turn it in kind of at the very last minute, it's really hard for me to kind of hunt people down and ask for that. Yeah. Okay. And so let me explain kind of this last line right here. So, I don't do curving of my grades, at least not in the traditional sense, but I do what I call grade scaling or grade adjustments. Okay. And so what that means is that, when all of the grades are in for all of the homeworks, the midterms, and the final project, and everyone kind of has all their submitted work, what I like to do is I like to look at the total average grade of the entire course, right? And so if that total average is less than a C, which is less than a 75%, which is, C is average, then what I like to do is I like to add points to everyone's grades until we reach the course average reaches that average threshold. Right? And so, for example, let's say that after everyone completes the final project, the average grade in the entire class is like a 72%. Okay, so that's about a C minus. So that's 3 percentage points below 75. And so what I'll do is then I'll go and add 3% to everyone's grades to boost them up by that much. And so, before the adjustment, let's say that you have maybe an 80% flat, right? And so you have like a solid B minus. After the adjustment, you would have 80% plus 80% plus 3%, 83%. And so that'll bump you up to a B, okay? And so I'll do adjustments for the entire class kind of based on that. So I usually don't do adjustments for individual students just because it kind of gets really complicated. Then I mean there are extenuating circumstances, of course, but I do the adjustments kind of for the entire class, and I do them at the very end. Okay, and so after every exam, I have someone ask me if I'm going to curve the grade for the exam. I don't curve the individual exams, but I will adjust the grades at the very end. If they do fall below that threshold. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go throughout. But usually for my elective classes, especially with the homework for completion and and I think just because people are generally more enthusiastic for their electives, I usually don't have to do any adjustments for my electives. Usually the averages tend to be around like the high 70s, and so or even low 80s, and so I usually I don't do it for a class like this, but but that policy is there in case I have to. Question. So is the final project individual or is it team? It's individual. So everyone's going to do their own final project and everyone's going to write their own report. Yeah. Okay. So any questions on grades? Okay. All right, textbooks. So I have a couple textbooks here. So they're not required, and so I don't require them because I'm going to be kind of picking out topics from each of these, and so I don't really follow the structure in each of these textbooks that that closely, although I do pick out topics, and so I don't require them, but they are pretty good books, and so I actually do recommend them, especially this one. So this is one that I actually used when I was in graduate school to learn a lot of these techniques, and I've actually met this guy too. He's kind of intimidating, actually, but he's still a nice guy. But he's a little bit intimidating because he's so famous. But yeah, he wrote a good book. Okay, so these books are good, but don't feel pressure to get them, because I know I was talking to someone before the class. Costs for everything are raising like crazy. I mean, for my own apartment, my rent went up by $150, just this year. So, I know money's a lot tighter for people. So, please don't feel pressure to get these textbooks. And if you've had me before, you know how I feel about textbook publishers. I feel like they're the mafia. Like basically taking advantage of students by charging crazy prices for these textbooks. So, I will never support the textbook industry just because I think they're a bunch of criminals, honestly. So that's why I don't require them. And so, if you do plan on picking these up, I think that they make good references, and so they're good if you want kind of more in-depth knowledge or more detailed explanations than what I'm going to give in the lectures. But in terms of the homeworks and in terms of the lecture notes, I'm going to be posting everything kind of in full detail, and so you're not going to need to look up any problems in the textbook. And and I know a lot of my past students, they just use my lecture notes to study for the exams as well. And so I'll be giving all of those to you, so you don't need to get them. But if you do want to get them, try to find a cheap version. There are a lot of secondhand stores that offer these cheap. Or if you just so happen to find one, when you're sailing the high seas, then that's fine too. If you just so happen to find one. Okay. All right, programming skills. So I've already kind of talked about this in detail, but this class is going to involve a lot of programming. Okay, and so I am going to operate under the assumption that everyone has at least some experience with MATLAB, and by that I mean that you've taken and you've passed 205, or you've taken kind of an equivalent, or you had some kind of past experience with MATLAB. Okay. And the reason is this course is going to involve a lot of code development. Okay, and so I'm going to do a review, and so there is going to be a review. I think it'll span more than one lecture, and it has a lot of examples. And so I've updated that review actually quite recently to to be more useful. Okay, and so hopefully that review will help you. But definitely if you still have your notes and your old projects from 205, I would definitely dust those off, because we're going to use all those skills. Okay. And if at any time you feel uncomfortable with the programming, please let me know. Because I know everyone's kind of in different places with their programming, but I'm here to help. Okay. And so if anything, besides the learning objectives that we already have for the class, one other objective that I have for this class is, I want everyone to come out of this class with a level of comfort or a level of confidence in their programming, because I think from what I've observed so far working here, and what I've observed from my own experience as a student, I think a lot of mechanical engineers come out of the degree thinking programming is like the worst thing in the world, and they're almost like intimidated by it, and they want nothing to do with it. But I think that's kind of a shame, because I think programming is such a useful skill, especially moving forward, where we have so many, where computers are just going to get more and more powerful, and being able to interact with them and leverage their power through programming is going to be so useful to I think a lot of fields. And so there's going to be a lot of coding in this class, but what I hope is that everyone that goes through this class, you come out of it, saying that, yeah, programming is not so scary. And, and I'm solving these insanely complex problems with programming. And I can do a lot of other things too, right? And I'm going to be here to support you throughout this whole time, right? And so, if you ever have any questions on the programming, you're saying, I don't really know how to set this up, or I don't really know the syntax for this, or, I don't really get this piece of code that you shared in the class, just let me know. I'm always happy to talk about those things, because honestly, I've been kind of pestering Dr. No to let me teach 205 for the longest time. It hasn't quite worked out yet, But it's a class that I want to teach because, I think everyone has the potential to program, and I think it's a really important skill for everyone to know and to feel comfortable with. Okay. And so, I'm hoping that this class kind of changes some attitudes about programming. Yeah. If BATLAB were the robots from then your cool spit. hopefully it's hopefully I changed some attitudes, hopefully I changed some opinions of programming from this class, because I think it's really cool, and I think a lot of people have a lot of good potential for it as well. Okay? But we are going to do a lot of it. That's the only thing I'm warning you about now. All right, Canvas. And so, I am going to give a tour of the Canvas site after the class today, or at the end of class today. And so, just so you know kind of where everything is. But I just want to let you know that I'm going to be very active on the website. Okay, so basically any content that I produce for this class, lecture notes, homework assignments, solutions, study guides, lecture recordings, sample codes, example codes, code skeletons, everything. So basically anything that I make for this class, it's going to be available on Canvas. And so, make sure you're checking the Canvas site on a regular basis, just so that you stay up to date on all those materials. Okay. Announcements. So I will also be making announcements in the class because I think that's the most reliable way to get in touch with everyone. And so whenever I make an announcement on Canvas, it'll send the email to you. And so I think everyone's kind of already experienced that by getting the welcome email, right? And so, that's all that's good. Okay. And I've also made a Discord server for the class. Right? And so I know a lot of you have already joined the Discord server, so thank you for doing that. And the Discord server is something I've started in this virtual instruction, but honestly, I think I'll keep doing that, for a long time. And so, the reason I created the Discord server was to give you a space and to give you an opportunity to really interact with your classmates in a very informal way, right? And so I think one thing that we're going to have to rethink, because of the virtual instruction and the pandemic is, how do we kind of recreate kind of the experience in the classroom, from virtual, right? And one of those experiences is, I think, being able to interact and chat with your classmates, in a kind of very low stress environment. Okay. And so that's what I created the Discord for. Okay. So in the past, what I've seen people use the Discord for is to ask questions on the homework. And so, people have been saying, hey, I'm struggling with problem 3. Can someone help me out with this? Here's what I have so far. And, and credit to you guys, you guys answer them. And so you help each other out. And, and because it's all kind of publicly, posted on the Discord, then everyone gets to benefit from it. Okay. And so I would say, don't be shy about, sharing, if you're struggling with something, share it on the Discord, because, once someone answers your question, then it benefits everyone in the class. And I guarantee you that, because I think, when people think about, oh, I don't want to share that I'm struggling with this because I don't want people to think that I'm dumb. I will guarantee you that literally nobody is thinking that, right? So if you post a question on Discord and someone answers you, the prevailing feeling that everyone will feel towards you is gratitude, because they're like, oh, now I can benefit from that as well, right? And so, just think of that, you're helping your fellow classmates out by posting stuff on there. Okay. And so in terms of my own activity, I'll try my best to check the Discord, but honestly, I have this course and 3 other courses, and so and I also use Discord for my own personal stuff, like I have a Dungeons and Dragons group on Discord. I also have all my friends I chat with on Discord. I have I chat with some League of Legends friends on there. So I actually turn off notifications on my class Discord servers. So the Discord really is just for you guys. But if you ever do need me to answer something on the Discord, you can definitely tag me. And so if you say @professor, then I will come in there and answer the question. But most of the time I will leave it alone. And so because it's really just for you guys. Okay. And I will say this too. Just because a year ago it kind of got out of hand. So you are able to direct message me on Discord, and so you can send me a direct message, but please try to reserve those for emergencies only, because like I said, I use this Discord account for all my personal stuff. And so, one semester it got so bad that I had like, 20, 30 students, messaging me on Discord for, for something, and, it got kind of out of hand. So, if it's an emergency and you need to talk to me right away, you can message me on Discord. But if it's not as urgent, I would ask that you send me an email and we interact there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any questions on this? Okay. All right, course policies. And so I do accept late homeworks, right? And so if you can't make, if you aren't able to submit the homework by the due date, please still turn it in, because I will give you some credit for it. But I do have to assess a penalty because it is after the due date. Okay. And so each day that the homework is late, I'll dock 10% off its points. Okay. And you can do this up to a week after it's due. Okay. And so I have this policy just because, again, like I said, I know all of your lives are going to be really hectic this semester, and keeping up with every single deadline is challenging. It's going to be hard. And so, I want to give you guys some flexibility in terms of, when you submit work, just so that you can get the maximum amount of points that you can. Okay. But I do have to take some points off because it's late. Okay. And the reason I have that week cut off is because, I like to post solutions for all my homeworks. And I can't have people still submitting homeworks, after the solutions are posted. And so, I have that week deadline just so that I can post the solutions and the class can benefit from that in checking their work. Okay. Regrades. And so, I'm human just like everybody else. And so I make mistakes all the time when I'm grading stuff. I don't plan to, I don't try to, but it happens, right? And so if you feel like I made a mistake in grading your homeworks or your exams, please let me know. I'm always happy to look at things again. All right. But again, I have a deadline of a week on this. Okay. So a week after I give something back to you, or a week after I grade it, you have a week to come back to me and let me know of any mistakes that I made. And so, don't come to me in week 16 and saying that I made a mistake grading homework 1. Okay. I'm not going to look at it. That's crazy. Okay. But I am always happy to look at things again, and if I'm also happy to give more feedback as well. And so if you're wondering, why I graded things a certain way, I'm always happy to talk about that. And so you can shoot me an email, and I'm always happy to discuss with you, about that. Okay. Emails. So emails, I think for most people, this is going to be the primary way that we're going to interact. And so, it really helps me out if you add EGME 417 to the subject line of your email. Okay. Just because I'm teaching 4 different courses this semester, and it's hard for me to kind of organize, what emails are from what class. Okay. And so if you can let me know right away that this is a question about 417, that really helps to organize my life. And if you do so, then I can promise you I will send you a response as quickly as I can. Okay. Because a lot of times, I'll get emails from students and they'll say, help please, or help, help me, or, problems with the homework. And I have no idea what class that you're talking about. And so, I have to ask, what class are you from and what is this about? And, I think it just kind of speeds things up when you let me know, right away what class this is from. Okay. And, I try to be my best. I try to do my best to, to be prompt. Most emails, I'll try to respond to you same day or within 24 hours, at the latest 48 hours, if things are really busy. But, I do try to be prompt with my email responses. But on weekends, I can't make any promises, because sometimes I'm out all day on weekends, and I don't have access to my email. Okay. But during the week, I'll answer your email as quickly as I can. All right. Any questions on this? Okay. All right, graduate credit. And so I know there are some graduate students taking this class. And so because it's a 400 level class, the department requires that you have to do an additional assignment in order for this to count for graduate credit. Okay. And so I just want to make you aware of it. And so the details about this extra assignment will be given later in the semester, but but if you're a graduate student, you have to do this assignment. And in fact, if you are a graduate student taking this course, then it would be great if you can let me know through email, just so that I have the list of everyone that needs the extra assignment. Okay. Right. Okay. Academic dishonesty. And so this is always my least favorite part of the semester, but I have to talk about this. Okay. My job here, and I fully believe this. My job here is not to be police. Okay. And so I'm not here to try to catch cheaters. Okay. Although, sometimes it kind of feels like that. And so my primary job here is to facilitate your learning. Right. So you guys are here at the school taking this course to learn skills, that are going to be useful for you and your career. And what I want to do in this class is to maximize the amount of learning that you do so that you can be as successful as you can in your career. And the bottom line is if you commit academic dishonesty, if you copy or you cheat, then you're taking away from that learning, because you're not putting in the time, you're not putting in the effort that you need to actually learn the skills. Right. And so I have to be a hard ass on academic dishonesty just because it's something that I have to we have to prevent it, because we want you guys to succeed. We want you guys to succeed in your careers, and learning these skills is what's important. Okay. And so if you commit any academic dishonesty, at the very least, there's going to be a 0 on that assignment, and there's going to be referral of student conduct. But if it occurs on something like an exam or a project, for me that's an automatic F in the course. And really, there's not really any room for negotiation on that. My cousin right now is he just finished his first quarter of college, and he asked me too. He's like, why are professors such hard asses on cheating? And so don't you have better things to do? And I'm like, and I told him your professors, we just want you to learn. Okay. We don't enjoy, going after students for cheating. The only thing we want is we want you guys to learn. And cheating really just takes away from that. And so, I have to be a hard ass, but on the other side, I promise you to do everything in my power to help you succeed in this course and to help you achieve as much learning as you can. Okay. And I promise not to judge you or not to criticize you or anything, because I feel like that's not my job. My job is not to judge you or criticize you. Okay. And so if at any time during the course you feel like you're struggling, or you feel like you need to resort to cheating to succeed or to get past something, please give me a chance first. Please come talk to me, and let's come up with a plan, or let's come up with a way to get you caught up with the course, or to make it feel like it's not so overwhelming. Okay. Because I want everyone to learn. I'm teaching this class because I think it's really cool and I think it's really useful, right? And so I'm always happy to help. Okay. I've had students come to me, like literally, less than 24 hours before the exam, say, hey, professor, I haven't come to class the last few weeks. I haven't done any of the homeworks. I'm really scared for this exam. Can you help me out? And I'll say, okay, we have 16 hours till the exam. Let's come up with a game plan to get you caught up as best as we can. Okay. I'm not here to judge you or criticize you. I'm just here to help you as best I can. Okay. And so, I always tell people, just please give me a chance. I promise you I'll do everything I can to help you out. But if you cheat, there's really nothing I can do, because, we have really strict policies on that from the department. And from there, it's hard for me to do anything. But, if you're struggling in this class, there's so much we can do. There's so much I can do to help you. And so, please give me that chance to do that. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about before we go over the course website is the first assignment. Okay. And so the first assignment is email introduction. And so I know a few of you have done this already, so thank you for doing that. But I want you to send me an email just to introduce yourself. Okay. And you get full credit just for completing it. And so I always love this assignment. This is always one of my favorite parts of the semester, because getting to know you guys and what your goals are and what you want to get out of this class is really cool. And I think it really helps me tailor the class to try to make it as useful and successful for everyone as possible. And the best part is, because you get full credit just for sending me an email, everyone starts out with an A, which is always a great thing. Okay. And so you can share as much or as little with me as you want. I'm not particular on that stuff. And so I have some questions here, but you don't have to answer these. These are just kind of some topics if you're having trouble, figuring out how to start your introduction. Okay. But feel free to kind of share as much or as little as you want. Okay. And these are going to be due by 11:59 on Sunday, January 30th. And don't forget to add EGME 417 to the subject line. All right. Any questions on the syllabus or anything before we start touring the course website? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the course website. Okay. Oh, I'm over here. Good. All right. And so here is the Canvas site. And so if you go to the home page, this is the first thing that you're going to see. Okay. And so you have EGME 417 Computational Heat Transfer, which is the name of the course. And so if you click on my name, you come to this, like, Twitter profile that I kind of wrote for myself when I first got on Canvas. And so I hate looking at that because it gets me embarrassed, but you can read that if you want. Okay. Here we have a description of the course. Here we have the learning objectives that we covered from before. Right. Here's the syllabus. And so if you want to download the syllabus, here it is. Okay. And it's failing to load for some reason. Okay. Here are all the Zoom links. Okay. And so just like I mentioned in the introduction email, even after these first 2 weeks are done, I still plan on streaming the lectures over Zoom. And so if you wish to attend the lectures virtually, you can continue to do so on Zoom here. Okay. And so I like this especially for the evening courses, because I know there's a lot of graduate students in these courses. And so I know a lot of you guys are really busy. And so I like the Zoom because I think it gives everyone a lot of flexibility in terms of how they interact with the course. Okay. And so you can attend virtually, and all the lectures will be recorded and posted on YouTube shortly after the lecture. Office hours, each of the office hour days have a different link. And so you can click on these links to attend the office hours during these times. Or you can come in person, once we're allowed back on campus. Okay. And the Discord server that I mentioned before, you can join with this link. And so if you have a Discord account, you can just simply click this and it'll let you join the server. Okay. All right, so that's all of the kind of essential information for the class. If anything, I think this page is useful just for learning about the Zoom links. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is this course outline, or the weekly viewer. And so I think for most people, this is kind of how you want to, this is how you're going to interact with the class. Okay. And so, what you'll notice from here is I've created a table which kind of breaks down week by week, what we're going to cover in this class. Right. And so right now we're on week 1, course introduction and review of heat transfer and fluids. And so as we go through the course, each of these links here will become clickable, and you can click on those links to get vital information for that week. Right. And so far, we're only in week 1, and so I only have week 1 activated. And so let's go ahead and click on week 1 here, right? And then inside this link, you'll find all the information and all the files that you're going to need for that week of the course, right? And so here I have a title for the week, right? Here I have a short blurb about, describing what we're going to learn that week, right? Here are all the learning objectives. Here's where I'm going to post the lecture recordings. And so, once the lectures are posted to YouTube, then I put the link here so that you can access it later on, right? All the assignments for the week I'm going to have here. Okay. So in this section, if you want to find out what assignments are due this week or due soon, you can click on this. And I also have all the files here. And so all the lecture notes and all the slides, for the week you can find here. And they'll be clickable for you to download for your convenience. Okay. All right. Any questions on this so far? Okay. All right. So let's take a quick look at the assignments page, right? And so I know probably a lot of you are familiar with Canvas, but there might also be some first-time students. So let me just go ahead and say this. Okay. All right. And so on your assignments, what you'll see here is that I have a description of the assignment here. Okay. If this were a problem set, then I will have a link here where you can download the problem set to your computer. Okay, so usually it's in the form of a PDF. And if the homework assignment involves coding, then I usually like to give you some starter code here as well. Okay, and so you can download all the files from the assignments page here. Okay, and if the homework, if you're going to submit it electronically, there will be a button for you to upload your files to submit. One thing I want to highlight here is the difference between the due date and the available date. Okay. And so for the due date is when it's due. And so you should try to, if you want to submit your assignment on time, you need to submit it before the due date. Okay. What you'll see is that, the assignment will still be available for about a week after the due date. And so the reason I have this is to give people an opportunity to submit their assignments late, right? But it's not going to be due at that date. Okay, so it's going to be due by the due date. right? And so every semester I get people that submit their assignments a week late, and they're kind of wondering, why did I only get half credit for this? And so the reason is because you submitted the assignment by the available date, not by the due date. Okay, and so submit it by this date, not by the available date. Right? Okay. All right. So next we have the grades tab, and so if you once you start submitting assignments and once I've graded them, you can check the scores here, right? And so this will have your most up to date report on your grades. Okay, and so once things are submitted, then you'll have a number here which will show you kind of how well you're doing in the class. Okay, and that number will automatically be weighted by the different categories here. Okay, and so this is a great place to check, just to check and see how you're doing in the course. Right? All right, and so the last thing I want to show you here is the Files tab, right? And so every file that I upload for the class, all the lecture notes, all the assignments, all the code, can be found here in this section. Okay, and so if we look at let's look at this lecture notes section here, right? And so you can see here I've actually posted all the lecture notes that I'm going to use for this semester. Okay, so usually I don't do this. So actually, usually what I do is I wait until the week before posting the lecture notes. But I've gotten a lot of students asking me about, can they get access to the notes kind of more ahead of time? And so, I just said, let me just post everything that I have already. And so you can go ahead and download all of these from the beginning. Okay. And what you'll notice that all these lecture notes are numbered, or most of them are, except for kind of these extra ones here. And so these are numbered according to the order in which we're going to cover them in the course. Okay. And so right now we just covered the 00 lecture slides. Okay, so that's the ones that we just covered. And then we're going to go to lecture notes 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 13 for this course. Okay. All right. And so the last thing I want to show you about the course website is the support resources. Okay. And so they just added that this year, or maybe this is just the first time I've noticed it. I don't know. And so if you click on this link, this will take you to a page which shows a bunch of Cal State Fullerton specific resources for you to take advantage of throughout the year. Okay, and so it has links to CAPS, which is our Counseling and Psychological Services. It has a link to DSS, and so if you have an accommodation, you can go ahead and click here. Okay, and if you want some more information about our academic integrity policies, I don't know what this is. Let's find out. You at Fullerton, me at Fullerton. Oh, okay, so this is student health stuff. Okay, cool. And so I assume that you can go there to get COVID tests and stuff like that. Okay, and then also Title IX and gender equity stuff. Okay. Okay, and so that's everything on the course website that I wanted to show you. And so are there any questions on this before we wrap it up for today? Okay, all right, so that's all I had planned for today. And so, we'll go ahead and wrap it up 10 minutes early because, I don't like to do any content on the first day. And so when we come back on Wednesday, we're going to be starting to our review of fluids and heat transfer, okay? And so that'll be a review of like 333 and 407 that you're gonna need for the course, right? All right, so thank you everyone for tuning in today. I know, I feel this way too. I know probably everyone's sick of all the Zoom stuff, but we got to do what we got to do to keep everyone safe. And so, thank you everyone for tuning in on Zoom and for being here on the first day. And so hope everyone enjoys the rest of their evening, and I will see everyone on Wednesday.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
Thanks.